Everybody, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Where you're from?
Pennsylvania.
Welcome. We are probably going to be muting every. Welcome. If you're just joining us, I'm Rochelle from Michaels. Let us know where you're from. We've got Cleveland. Oh, we have Puerto Rico, Delaware, a little bit from everywhere. Welcome, everybody. And just so you know, we are going to be recording this. So if you're taking notes, don't worry. We will be recording and be posting this within a couple of days. So if you missed something, you can go back. Also, if you have questions, we're going to do our best to be answering these either through the chat or live as well. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Allie.
No sound.
Oh, give us one moment.
No sound. No sound. No sound.
I think we're having a technical difficulty.
I think we are in mute only. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Allie, if you can try to unmute your camera, please.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so happy to be here with you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I'm really grateful for this technology that allows us to create together from a distance. And I'm happy that I get to share with you today some amazing We Are Memory Keepers tools to create a summer journal. I've kind of been thinking about what our summer is going to look like this year. For some of us, it's going to be a very different summer. It's going to be maybe more of a staycation kind of a thing. But that shouldn't ever stop us from recording what's going on. I strongly believe in day-to-day documenting and documenting the simple things in life as well as the big, important, fun things. So I'm excited to share with you this journal, whatever your adventures are going to be this summer, whether it's home-based or not. You definitely should be keeping track of those and documenting them. So this journal is a handmade journal. It's we're going to do some bookbinding. We're going to stitch these pages together. And what's unique about this journal is it's got plenty of plain pages in here, so you can write as much as you want, or you can add as many photos as you want. But we're also going to use some pretty pattern papers in addition to kind of break things up and make it more interesting. I also love, let's see if we can flip back here a little bit more. I love to add envelopes to my journals and planners and mini books because that allows you space to add a bunch of photos. You can just slide a bunch of photos in there, or if you have some memorabilia from a trip or a, something you've done that you want to slide in there, ticket stubs or whatever, you can do that. I also, let's see if we can flip through here. Sometimes I'll add smaller envelopes to my pages. Here we go. Here's one right here. And that allows you the opportunity to pull things out. Let's say you have a photo you don't really want to glue down. You don't want to tape it down. You can just slide it in there. And this also adds additional journaling opportunities. So we're going to work with a bunch of different fun tools. Many of you are probably familiar with the envelope punch board. We're going to use that to make the envelopes. This is our bookbinding guide. That's what we're going to use to stitch the pages together. This is a great tool to have. I love it. I use it all the time. And we're also going to use the word punch board to customize our cover and add custom words. And then we're going to get really fancy and add some foil handwriting. to the cover as well with the Freestyle pen. This is our focal Freestyle pen, and that's going to be really fun. So first off, I'm going to introduce just basic background of who I am. I'm Allie Dowsell, and I've been working with We Are Memory Keepers for the past 10 years. I've done a lot of different things for them over the years, but currently I'm doing their social media. I'm doing their design team. I do the home shopping network for them and other TV appearances like local lifestyle TV spots. I do trade shows for them. I do, you know, just anytime they need someone to represent them, that's me. So it's been really fun. I've been crafting for over 20 years. Scrapbooking is my kind of my base, my foundation. That's where I started. So I really love storytelling. And I'm really excited to share this with you. So let's get started. We're using the Heritage paper pad. This is available online at Michael's. It's absolutely beautiful vintage feel. And I wanted to pick this because it has the home feel, because our summer is going to be home-based, but it also has fun summer kind of things inside. Let's see if I can pull out a few of those specifically. I might have actually pulled those out already. Here we go. I'm trying to remember where I've got all my themes. Okay, so we've got within this a beautiful vintage feel, but we've got cameras. That to me just represents summer. And then we've also got images here that you can cut apart. Did I not include it in here? Well, anyway, there's one. Oh, yep, here it is. It's got the hats and the sunglasses. And so that felt kind of summery to me. So we're going to work with those. And this paper pad also has a lot of cut apart sheets that you can cut apart cards. So that gives you a lot of embellishment opportunities. I cut some of these quotes out. And so that's great. And then there's also postage stamps. That always makes me think of summer and you know, kind of travel and that kind of thing if you're doing any traveling. So lots of fun things to cut out and add as embellishments to your pages. So let's get started with the cover. All right, I'm gonna put those to the side. So we're going to use this beautiful paper for the cover. And this has got a beautiful rose gold sheen. There's some rose gold details. And this to me felt like summer. These remind me of sunshines, and just the blue remind me of kind of a nautical beachy feel. So we're gonna use that. And I'm going to trim this down to, we're gonna leave it 12 inches wide, but we're gonna go with 8 inches high. So I'm gonna slide this into my paper trimmer, and we're just gonna cut that down to 8 inches. So there's our cover. And then what we're gonna do is score it right down the middle. So let me scoot this over so you can see better. We're gonna score it right at 6 inches because it's 12 inches wide. So let me get that lined up. All right. And then just score right at 6. And then for the inside pages, so this is our cover. And just quickly, scoring, I love to score before I fold, especially with the pretty pattern papers, because that helps to avoid any tearing along the crease. So it's always a good idea to score before you fold. So once we've got that cover, we're going to do the inside pages. Now there are going to be 3 just plain pattern paper pages, and these are the ones that I used. It's a nice sand plaid, and then a darker tan polka dot, and this pretty blue grid. So those are your inside pages. So you're going to trim those down a little bit shorter than the 8 inches. I would recommend like maybe 7 7/8 is kind of what I did. And the reason you want to do that is you don't want those pages sticking up above your cover. So that just makes sure that they're all going to stay inside that cover. So go ahead and do that, 7 7/8 by 12, and then score those in the middle at 6 as well. So we're starting to see the structure of our album with the pages and the cover, and we will take care of these little pieces hanging out here later on once we get everything stitched together. So don't worry about that for now. I also added, let's see, here we go. I added 11 sheets of 8.5 by 11 copy paper. So this is just plain white thin, I think it's 20-pound copy paper. I got 11 of those together, and I've already trimmed them down to the 7 by 7/8 inches tall, but I left them at 11 inches long. Obviously you can't go any longer than that, but I like having a little bit of difference in the sizes of the pages, so that's kind of cool. So get 11 of those, cut them down to 7 7/8, and then we'll talk about how we're going to bind those together. So let me scoop my trimmer out of the way. And this out of the way. And oh, you know what? Before we do that, let's make our envelopes. Let's do that first. Then we can add those in. So we're going to have 2 envelopes inside. We're going to actually stitch in and bind into the journal. One of them is going to be this pretty floral that's got the rose gold on it. And the other one is this cool geometric multicolor. So if you're familiar with the envelope punch board, you know that there is a chart here, a measurement chart. So you're going to determine what size card you want. That's one thing that's important to remember is the sizes they're giving you here are the card size, and your envelope is always going to be about 1/4 of an inch wider and taller. So just keep that in mind. So since our finished book is 6 by 8, I went with a smaller size. So I went with the 5.5 by 7.5. Just because that way when we make the envelope, it's going to be a little bit bigger than that, and it'll be just right for this particular size. So on here, it says 7.5 by 7.5. You're going to cut your paper to 10.5 by 10.5 inches. And then it tells us we're going to line it up at 4.5 along our alignment guide here. So I've already cut this paper down to 10.5 by 10.5. So I'm going to line it up on the guidelines here at 4.5. And then all you need to do, and what I love about We Are Member Keepers is they always have everything you need right in the tool. So you've got your scoring tool that's in there, you've got your alignment guide, your instructions on there, so you're all set to go. So we're gonna punch, and then we're going to score. And this is not gonna reach quite all the way to the end, so you're just gonna do as much as you can. And that's okay, because all you really need is just a guideline. Once you've got this score line, you're gonna line it up right here with this guide, and then punch, and then score again. Same thing, rotate it 90 degrees, line up those lines, punch and score. Again, this one's not quite going to go all the way to the end, which is okay. And then line up, punch and score. All right, so once we've done that, you can kind of see how this is going to go. So this is going to be our top flap right here of our envelope, and these are the sides and the bottom. So I am going to turn the punch around. Another thing I love about the punch boards is there's always a reverse punch. And so we're going to put this in here and round the corner, and that just gives it a really nice finished look. Now I'm not going to do the other three because you're not actually going to see those. So in addition to this score tool, you've got a bone folder that helps you to crease your folds. So we're going to fold the side flaps in and crease those, and then fold the bottom flap up. And I personally, you can leave it like this, but I personally like to get rid of this here. So what I do is I take a ruler, which is down here, and I just line it up right where those two, where that valley is right there. And then I score with my scoring tool, and then I have a place where I can cut with my scissors. I have like a guide. And so I just trim that off. I just follow the score line and trim that right off. And now we're ready to tape that envelope together. I'm using double-sided craft tape. I think that's the best option for these kinds of projects where you're folding and taping paper together. So we'll just tape those flaps together. And then we've got our envelope, and this is going to be where our spine is on our book. So we're going to stitch that directly in. So now that we've got these pages ready, we're going to punch the holes so we can bind them. And the way that I'm going to do this is I've got one going this direction, and then I've got one going this direction. So, but the creases are lined up. And what's so cool about our bookbinding tool is it has a crease in it. So you just unscrew these screws, remove this, and you probably can't see it in the video, but there's a crease right here, and that's on purpose. So you can just put the crease of your journal or whatever you're binding, your book, right in there. And we're going to line that up at the top against this guide, and then we're going to put this back down and put the screws in to tighten that and keep that secure. All right, so once we've done that, let me find my, okay, this pouch comes with your bookbinding guide. And inside here, you're going to have instructions for different kinds of stitching. You're going to have instructions for Japanese stitching, for Coptic binding, for saddle stitching. And then you're also going to have your piercer. That's to make your holes. And then you're going to have 2 different needles. And we're just going to work with the straight needle today, but you also have this for different kind of binding. And then you also get some thread. You get some waxed thread that you can use for binding to get yourself started. So what we're going to do first is punch the holes, and you can kind of decide how you want to do this. And I recommend looking at this before you start punching so that you have a plan in place before you make holes in your binding. And then what I decided is I was going to start at the top here, and then I'm going to go every 3rd hole, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to keep doing that and go all the way down and punch through these pages. Let's see, yep. And so you probably are wondering how many pages you can get in here. So this is 5 60-pound or 80-pound pattern papers. I fit all 11 of those copy papers in perfectly, no problem. So hopefully that helps you. Almost done. 1, 2, 3, last one. All right, now once you've done that, I recommend grabbing some binding clips and holding that together. Now, we are going to rearrange these papers, so we don't technically need to do this, but if you already have your pages lined up, or arranged in the right order, then I would definitely put the binders on to hold them together. But we're going to rearrange these because I had to do some of it ahead of time to kind of save on time here in the class, so we don't have to watch me do that twice. So let's arrange these, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So first we've got our cover. That's going to go first, and then we're going to put in 2 of the plain white pages. And then we're going to put in this plaid. This pretty plaid goes next. Then 2 more white pages. And you can kind of see that we're sort of have a pattern going here. Pattern paper, 2 white pages. And then let's see, let me make sure I get this right. Got it written down here. Okay, then next comes our envelope. This envelope, the geo print, and that's going to go this way with the envelope on the left. And then we've got 2 whites. And then let's see what's next. Have we got our polka dot? Yep. This brown polka dot goes next. And then 2 whites. And then, is it our floral envelope? Yes, with the envelope going this direction to the right. And then 2 whites. And then our grid paper goes next. And then last we have 1 sheet. And the reason we have 1 sheet is because that's the inside of the journal. That's the middle. So those folded together will equal 2 sheets. All right. So now what I like to do is to get these all lined up just right and get the holes where they need to be. I like to use the piercing tool. So I kind of just string it all on very carefully to the piercing tool. Sorry if my head's in the shot. And that way I can get them all together so that when I stitch, we don't have any problems. And sometimes it's easier to do it in smaller groups, like groups of 2, and then bind it together so that you don't have to worry about it moving. So we'll work through this, getting all of our pages together and then clipping them so that they stay in place. We're almost there. All right, last one, there's the cover. Okay, now before I move that out, I'm going to clip these together. Okay, now I'm gonna put this on top. Take those off. And then we're gonna add those in with the rest using the piercing tool. them all together. All right, and then I like to go through and kind of just, again, make sure I've got them lined up and can get that piercing tool right through to the back so it comes through. And then I'm going to kind of do that on a few of these, not all of them, all the way down, just to get everything lined up. And then I usually like to do it at the bottom here. Make sure I've got the whole book lined up. Almost there. Okay, there, I can see it come through. All right, and then I clip to hold it in place. All right. Okay, we are now ready to stitch. And so what I'm going to do is grab some of this thread and I'm going to lay it across my book. And we're going to do it so that you can double it plus a few inches. So I need a little bit more. So we're going to do about that much. And this is not an exact science. You just need to have a little extra so you can tie it off at the end without it being too awkward. All right, and then we're going to use our straight needle. I can pick it up. There we go. And thread this through. And with this thread that comes with the kit, you really only need one string. You don't need to double it. Just make sure you've got enough of excess there so it doesn't come unwound. And you don't need to tie off the bottom because you're going to tie it together when you're finished. So you're going to start at the bottom, going from the inside of the book towards the outside cover and pull through, and then you're going to leave a little excess, a few inches. That's going to be for tying off at the end. And then you're going to go back from the cover. This is just basically like a back stitch or a, what do you call it? Yeah, just a back stitch, right? Up and down. Now see, I didn't carefully check that hole. Let me go through here, see if I can get it to go all the way through. There it is. Okay. So we're going to go, oh, sorry, back to front. My bad. There we go. And then again, front to back, and just kind of make sure you don't pull that end through. Oh yeah, I probably should have gone through with the piercer on all of them. So there, you can learn from my mistake. Go through with your piercer through all of them. That will work better. They'll make your stitching go faster. All right. And come up through back here. Almost. Okay, there it is. I see it. All right. We're going to come up through there. We're going to just continue on. This one, yeah, I think I can feel that when we did that one. Okay. I'm going to come up here. And as you're stitching, you're going to want to make sure that you pull these stitches tightly while holding on to that bottom one so that there's not any slack, because if there's slack, your book's going to have problems. So make sure those stitches are nice and tight. Oop. All right, almost there. And then once you get to the top, and this will go faster because we've already gotten through those holes, you're going to come back down. And that's just going to make sure that your binding is secure. This is called the saddle stitch. So now I'm going to go through, go the opposite way and go back down. And if you take the time to pierce, or to pierce through all, well, not pierce through, but line up all those holes, then this is how fast your stitching will actually go rather than the speed I was going originally. So again, making sure we're pulling this tight. And you can, once you run out of the wax thread that's provided in this kit, you can use other kinds of thread or floss. As long as it's thicker, like regular thread for sewing, like cotton thread isn't going to work. It's not strong enough. But like upholstery thread, twine, I've used baker's twine. There's a lot of pretty decorative options too. All right, so now we've reached the bottom, and what we're going to do is tie this off in a square knot. So right over left, and I like to knot it right there above that bottom hole. And then we're going to do left over right, and that'll hold it securely. And that's why you want to leave some excess at the end there so you have enough to work with to make your knot. All right, and then we'll just trim the excess. I like to leave, probably 1/4 inch down there. Then we can remove our clips. And fold it carefully, give it a little pinch. Get these pages used to being flexible and moving. They don't want to be flexible. They want to stay where they were, but we're going to teach them how to be flexible. Okay, so once you've done that, and you can go through, sometimes I'll go through and individually crease each page. That's probably a good idea to get them flexible. But let's real quick talk about these pieces hanging out here. My favorite way to take care of these is, lost my AirPod, hold on a second. My favorite way to take care of these is with a craft knife and a straight ruler, straight edge that's metal. You can also use a really good, strong, sturdy, sharp pair of scissors. That you might need to go through it a few times, but that works as well. So I just line this right up at the edge of the cover, right there, and then I'll just go through, and again, you'll have to do this a few times because you've got a few pieces in there. Make sure you got a good sharp craft knife, that helps too. Just go through, slice all the extras so you have a nice straight book. Almost there. All right, and I mean, I'm not too worried about perfection. If you are, that's fine, keep going, but that's good enough for me. All right, now we're ready to decorate the cover. This is actually my favorite part. I mean, bookbinding's fun, but I also love the fun, frilly decorative part. So let me grab my pieces to do that. Scoot that over. All right, so first we're going to take a 6x6 square of this really pretty wood grain. And again, I like to use this wood grain with the blue color because it kind of makes me think of the beach. It's kind of a nautical feel. So I'm just going to put some tape around all 4 sides, 4 edges. Whoops, let's go. So I can get that sealed down carefully. That's going to go right about in the middle. If you want to measure that, you're welcome to measure that. I usually just kind of eyeball it. And then you're going to pay careful attention to this edge over here because it's kind of bending. Make sure you get plenty of tape over there and press it down. All right, and then next we've got some layers that we're going to put on. I cut a couple of these out. There's a whole sheet that has all these pretty colors, and they've got like the color numbers and everything. And so I wanted to capture the nautical feel. So I got the tides and the coast blues, and we're going to put those together. But first we're going to add the title. Let me grab the finished book so you can see. So we've gone and gold foiled on the title right here. So we're going to put that on right there, and let me show you how we're going to do that. So you've got your paper. You can also foil on leather, you can foil on wood, you can foil on ribbon, you can foil on all kinds of different surfaces. Acetate, I think we've done it on slate before, all kinds of materials. So you're going to get your material, then put the foil down, and there's a 6-inch roll of foil. I think that's 6 by 8 or 9 feet that comes with the Freestyle pen, and you're going to cut just a small piece and use the placement tape that comes with the kit. This is similar to washi tape, but it comes with the kit. And then you can freestyle with your own handwriting if you are a hand letterer or calligrapher, or you can do what I've done, and you can print just on regular thin 20-pound copy paper, print your favorite font. You can also use permanent ink and stamp directly onto the foil and then trace that as well. And that just helps you get, you know, get a nice image if you're not, you know, I'm not an experienced hand letterer, so I don't trust myself with that. So I'm just going to finish off. I've already done most of it, and I'm just going to finish off this last letter, the R here. And I'm pushing down a little harder than I normally would when I'm writing, so that that foil transfers, because the foil transfers using heat and pressure. And so we just want to make sure we get a nice clean transfer. And the nice thing about using this is the tape is you can kind of lift this up and check it and make sure you've got it. And if you've missed a spot, you can place that back down and then go back over it. So that's a nice tip, but it looks like it's pretty well covered. So I'll peel that off and move this out of the way. And by the way, you can use any like battery pack, USB battery pack. This is just my phone charger. You could plug it in to a wall adapter because it's a USB port. So it makes it easy for on the go as well. You're not limited to a place with a wall adapter or a wall plug, but you want definitely a strong continuous power source for that. So I'm going to put that aside, let it cool down. All right, so once we've got that, let's start assembling the cover. So we've got this layer and this layer together, kind of like this. Right about there, kind of in the middle, I guess. And then this one is going to go layered over that to the left. Maybe a ½ inch above the top and about an inch from the left side here on the spine. All right, and then there's a really great cut apart sheet that has a bunch of tags. I cut it to pieces though, but this is part of it, and this is just invaluable for embellishing. So that's a great sheet that you can use. So I cut apart this little flag, and one tip I would share is I like to use foam adhesive, like dimensional adhesive. Let me pull out to give the cover just a little bit of pop. And the nice thing about the foam adhesive is it's flexible, you know, so it can squish down if you need to store it in some place, but it'll also pop back up because it's foam. So I'm going to put this little flag on here.
Hey, Allie, just curious,
Yeah.
remember the font that you used for summer?
Oh, I don't, but maybe I can find that out and I can share it with Michaels, and maybe they can add it to the description on the video.
Love that. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I don't remember right offhand, but that is a good question. There are lots of great fonts out there that are script or hand lettering fonts. And so if you want to do a search on the hand lettering fonts, I'm sure you'll find something that you really love, but I'll get this particular font to our friends at Michael so they can share that. Okay, so once we've done that, then we're going to use another fun tool. This is our word punch board. And the cool thing about this is it comes with the entire alphabet. So it allows you to create a title or a tag or, a sentiment on a card saying anything you want. And so we're going to do that on this strip. This is one I cut off apart from one of the pattern papers. And so here's a tip. If you have a word that has repeat letters, you'll notice here I'm missing my E here because my E is right here. So what I usually do is I take another letter and I put it there to hold the place of the letter that's you know, missing. Put that one there, and then I take that out, put it back. So now I know I have the perfect space there for when I need to punch with my E. And so I'm going to slide this in. And there's a little guide here. Hopefully you can see that, that you're just going to push that up right against the back of that guide. And that's going to help us get that lined up both times we punch, because we have to punch twice so we can get that second E. So once it's lined up, we just push this board down and punch. And then obviously we've got to move these letters out, but not before we slide that E right into place. And then we're going to move the rest of these out and slide our paper back in exactly in the same spot with the guide, so we don't have to guess, and punch. So we've got our word adventures. And then here's another tip. In the bottom here, you see there's some letters that are punched out. Save those for another project. I like to keep them all in a little container. And then I can dig through and find any color of any letter I want. So let me move this out of the way. And then what I like to do often for these is I like to back it with a contrasting color paper, just so that you can see that word really clearly. You don't always have to do that, but that's just a personal preference. So I'm just going to put some tape down in between these letters and add that piece of contrasting paper to make that title pop a little bit more. Okay. All right, so you're obviously going to cut that piece just a little smaller than your original piece. And then if you want to, let me grab my smaller scissors, you can cut a little V shape into the ends to give it a little decorative flair, or you can leave it plain, either way, whatever you prefer. And once I've done that, then I'm ready to tape it onto my cover. And so I'm just going to use my, again, my double-sided tape for this one. I'm not going to pop it up on foam adhesive. And that's going to go right below. And this, I, on purpose, made this strip at 6.5 inches. So it hangs over the edges. You don't have to do that. If you'd rather fit it right on here, you actually can punch every other letter and scoot them kind of closer together, and then go back and put the opposite letters, every other letter in, so that the letters are closer together. But that's another demonstration for another class, another day, but you can make it tighter if you want to. All right, so to finish up, we've got some washi tape. That's on the class list, supply list, some pretty gold washi tape to complement the gold from the foil quill. And we're going to just add a few strips down at the bottom to kind of balance out what's going on the top, or what will be going on the top, because we haven't quite finished the top. So I just did a full strip that goes across right in between the two words down here, kind of. And with washi tape, I often will extend it beyond the edge of my project, so then I can go back and trim it to fit perfectly. All right, and then I think I did this polka dot next, the small polka dot. Oh, got washi tape stuck on my finger. There we go. All right, so small polka dot, and I'm just going to tear this one. I'm not going to worry about cutting it. I like to have some pieces that have the tear, because that's kind of the signature washi tape look. So we're going to layer those a little bit. And the nice thing with washi tape is it's semi-transparent, so you get this really cool layering look. Love to use washi tape. It's beautiful, it's decorative, but it's also functional. You can tape items into your journal as well. Okay, so a little bit of emphasis down there. And then, all right, so let me show you a quick trick about layering. So this piece is obviously, you know, it's a whole piece. It's got ties at the bottom. Well, each of these sheets of paper, let's see if I can find one that still has, yeah, there we go, comes with a strip at the top that's printed with a different pattern. save those, and you can use those for layering and for borders and for all kinds of things. And that's exactly what this comes from. So it's going to look like I've got a whole nother one of these layered under there, but it's really just a teeny tiny piece of the end. So that is going to go, let me just kind of peel this up a teeny bit so I get it underneath there. That's going to go here. And then this is part of the cut apart sheet that I showed you with all the tags. And these are great for layering too. And so what I recommend doing is cut them apart, cut a piece. You're not going to see the whole thing if you layer it under there. So just cut a little piece and then layer that piece. And then you can use the top piece for another project to layer. But it still gives you the illusion that you've got a whole layer under there and you're saving your paper. All right, so let's move on to the top. Now we're going to use another fun tool. There's some space here. Okay, you can see I'm a messy crafter. I like to have my mess. Okay, so we're going to use this Floral Stamp Die and Emboss kit. And this is like the ultimate kit for creating custom embellishments for your projects. Let me show you why. So it comes with layered stamps. Let's see, I feel like I am. There we go, got it mixed up. Okay, so it comes with layered stamps. So you would stamp this stamp in one color, and then you would stamp this in a different color. I've got that wrong. There we go. And you would stamp that in a different color, and you see how they line up to create the entire image. And then what's really awesome about this one, let's see, it's probably down here somewhere. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I did not gather that, but there's a whole sheet of stamps that come with it that allow you to customize your phrases. So they're shaped like this little rectangle. Hopefully you can see that. You can slide in the phrases there, and it says love grows here, hope grows here, joy grows here. So you can customize that. So that's really cool. And then in addition, there's more. In addition to that, you have an embossing and die cutting folder that matches that image perfectly. So once you've stamped your image, you slide it in here, and you've got a way to cut that perfectly. Did we lose one of my cameras?
Yes, we lost
Okay.
the hands down one.
All right, let me see if I can get that back up. I apologize, I'm not sure what happened. This is my son's phone. Okay. All right, okay, is that it?
We're back.
Okay, yay, okay, good. All right, so, so you can cut that out and it embosses. And then here's another set. Same kind of thing. It's got a little space here for putting different words in, like thank you, I think congratulations, those kinds of words. And then you've got the layered stamps to make your pretty image, and then you cut it out and emboss it, and it makes a tag, a perfect tag. So those are really beautiful. And then it comes with an embossing folder just for embossing this pretty floral. And then it also comes with separate dies, so you can customize whatever shapes you want to create on your project. So that's what we're going to work with. We're going to work with these dies, these metal dies. And what I like to do is I like to, for a project like this, I just grab some paper, several scraps, and I just lay them all down. And I just cut a whole ton of different flowers and shapes, so that I have a bunch of choices to pick from, different colors, different patterns, and then I can easily embellish my project as I'm creating it. So you'll need a tabletop die cutting tool, die cutting / embossing tool. And then you're just going to run that through. And it cuts out your shapes, your flowers. And then, like I said, I usually just have a bin where I've got like all different colors of, you know, and patterns of these. And then I've got my instant embellishments ready to go. So what I did for this particular cover is I took, let's see, I took that bottom one that was the nice, pretty kind of nude color. And then I got a pink center flower. And then I think I put a few, let's see, different color flowers as well. Just grab a few of those. Perfect. Okay. Oh, and then I need my greenery, my leaves. All right. So here's what I like to use the foam for as well. Oh, actually, before I do that, so here's another trick, guys. This is really cool. You're going to take your papers if you want to add some dimension. Paper is very impressionable. It's very, you know, you can definitely work with it and shape it. So I like to kind of curl the petals, and that's just going to give it a little dimension on my project. So I'm going to tape this one down, just add a little bit of tape on the bottom there. And this one's going to kind of go up toward the top here. And then after I tape it down, I usually kind of reshape it. All right, then here's where the foam comes in. That's going to go in our center. And I'm going to grab here, this one right here. Fold those petals again, or well, not fold them, just curl them. You can also get like a round object like a pencil or something like that, or even, you know, something like this to kind of help you curl those petals, or a quilling tool if you have a quilling tool. And then we're going to stick that on. And then we also have for the class these beautiful gold glitter stickers. They're like enamel circles, and those make perfect flower centers. So we're going to add that pretty gold glittery flower center to kind of pick up the gold and the rest of the cover. And then I will glue the leaves down and kind of layer that underneath there a little bit. All right, and then what I did, let's see, got those pieces here, is I like to call this fussy cutting. So this is like those images I showed you at the very beginning on the paper with the cameras and the houses. I just like to cut those shapes out with some detail scissors, some small scissors, and use those as embellishments. So your paper is a great resource to embellish. You know, you don't need to necessarily spend a ton of money on extra embellishments. You can make your own. So we're going to add the cute little house up here. This is our staycation summer. And then the camera, I think I did pop that up on some foam to give it a little dimension. And when you vary the dimension like that, not everything's popped up, that just adds a little more interest. So that camera's going to go here, maybe down a little bit further. All right, and then we're going to add a little arrangement of flowers, small flowers down here. And I'm just using tape on these. And again, once I get that down, I can kind of work on shaping those petals a little bit. I kind of wanted to use a monochromatic floral look on the cover here because there's a lot of different color going on. So these flowers are sort of in the same family of colors. So we don't have too much happening on the cover, and the title is really the emphasis on the cover. And then we've got a little teeny flower. We're going to stick right there, and then we're going to stick down this little trio of leaves. And that's going to go right to the side there. And then I'll add some of these really small flower centers for these smaller flowers. And that's nice. This sheet of enamel stickers has 3 different sizes. So that's great that you can work with those. Whoops, that was definitely not in the center. There we go. All right. So that is our cover. And that is what we're mainly going to be doing in the class. But now you can see you've got 2 pages. You've got, you know, white pages, then you've got your pretty pattern paper page, 2 white pages, your cute envelope there, you know, 2 white pages. You can see all the options you have in here for documenting, writing, photos, embellishing. And so one thing I did want to show you is this particular paper pad is one-sided, so the back side is white. So what I like to do is not necessarily add a full sheet of patterned paper to cover, you know, to be in place there of the white, but I like to add maybe like, you know, a partial, just to give it a little color. So you still have some of that white showing through where you can write on and add photos too. Oh, that's what's stopping me. Okay. So I'm gonna just line that right up against the edge there. And see, then we've got a nice page and it speaks to this piece over here that matches, and you're ready to add some things. So that's just one trick is as you get to the backs of these pattern papers that are white, you can always add extra. Have a ton of pattern paper in that pad, so you can always add extra. So now that we've finished that, that's basically the bulk of the class. I'm just gonna do a quick flip through and show you a few tips of decorating the pages. And then if you have questions, I would be happy to take your questions. So this is one of these stamp images of the full sheet of stamps that I did not gather and have over here. I'm not even sure where it ended up because I was crafting so much in my craft room. So, but that's one of them. And so you can use the stamps. Here's another one to add more details. Part of the class supply list is this set of tags. They're just blank cardstock tags with some twine. And those are great for embellishing. You can add stamping to those. You can add die cuts to those. And so I often would add little strips. Again, these are the strips from the tops of the pages in the pad to the sides of the white pages. You can also go across this way. This is actually a trick that's used in art and design called a leading line that leads to a pretty element that you want to emphasize. So just create a border, point it over to, and this is up one of the pages that I just fussy cut. I just cut around this pretty flower and the leaves and added that there. Now I like to add interactive elements. So I use washi tape on both sides, on the back and the front, and then that's a little flap and another little flap. And you can add journaling, dates, details, photos to those flaps. So that just gives you more options. Here's that small pocket. You can put photographs in there. You could probably fit 5 photographs in there with some journaling. So that's a great option. Here's another flap that I created. Yeah.
Do you mind repeating the size of the papers within the journal and the envelopes?
You bet, no problem. So this journal is going to end up being 6 by 8. So the pages that you cut, like the cover, is 6 by 12 because you're just going to fold that in half. And then the inside pages, the pattern papers, I did those 7 by 7/8 inches tall by 12 so that they would fit inside the cover of the book. And then these were just 8.5 by 11 sheets of copy paper, and I kept them at 11 inches and then I trimmed them down to 7 7/8 inch tall. Does that answer your question, hopefully? Any other questions about the pages? Okay, so here's one of those cut apart cards that I used as a flap, extra photos and journaling on there, fun little interactive element, another flap. I stamped some of those pretty images that come with the kit on here and added some flower centers. This is one of the cut apart cards that you can put journaling on and then add a whole bunch of photos in there. Stamping again from the kit, the Floral Stamp Die and Emboss kit. Some more die cut flowers and fussy cut prints from the different patterns. Here's another cut apart card. And I added the twine for the tag and then just taped it down, you know, just to keep it there. More flaps and more fussy cutting from the different pattern papers. This is a fun thing you can do is just tape the top of your tag down, score it, and then fold it up and add a photo or some journaling back there. Here's the flap from the second envelope. It just adds a little interest, something different. And again, here's the pocket, and on one of the tags, I just stamped a floral stamp on there. So you can see I didn't finish the whole back here. Here's the other envelope, but you can continue on. And I was gonna show you, I was actually gonna do this over the weekend and I ran out of time. But what I like to do is I like to use one of those handheld printers. There's a lot of different brands out there, but as you're taking pictures, this is from a road trip last summer that our family took, and that's what I'm going to fill this album with. But these are printed directly on a self-adhesive photo paper. So you just peel off the back and stick them in. So that's my favorite way to document our family adventures. So I think that's pretty much all I have. We just have a few minutes. If anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. Let's see. Can you show us the journal the other way? It looks backwards for us. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Yes, let's see. Like this? Do we want to do the overhead camera again, or do you want me to show this way? Is it backwards that way too? This way. Okay, is that better?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
thank you, Allie.
Okay, thank you. I thought we had a camera oriented the right way. That was my bad. I'm sorry about that. All right, so let's just go quick flip through so you can see some ideas for embellishing your own. Washi tape, again, is a great resource for journals and planners and mini books because it's flat, but it's also pretty and decorative, and it holds things in. So that's really nice. We've got a couple interactive elements. And these cut aparts come in super handy. These blank tags are super fun to stamp on. So, and then here's those postage stamps again. More cameras and more die cut flowers in different colors. Cut apart cards. I thought this was really cute. This was a little girl in her swimsuit. So I thought that was fun to add for summer. We will definitely be spending some time in our swimsuits this summer because it is hot here. Another flap, more fussy cutting, stamping, and there's that folded tag. More stamping, and I recommend, here's a quick tip, this copy paper that I used was 20 pound, just basic, printer paper. It's a little thin, so if you're going to stamp on it, I recommend putting something on the other sides because it'll show through. I did learn that. So, oh gosh, did we lose that camera again? Well, we're probably about done. So any other questions before we go?
I don't think so.
We're good?
We are good. Thank you so much, Allie. That book is absolutely beautiful. I think everyone agrees that you did a fabulous job. So thank you so much for taking the time to walk everybody through it, Allie, as well as thank you everybody who joined today's class. Here at Michael's, our goal is to keep you creating, and hope you found a little inspiration in today's class. If you missed something, don't worry, we're recording this. We will be posting this on michaels.com/classes. So check back on the site in a couple of days. And also, if you're interested in learning something new, you can also check out our other classes. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.